And, right, my friends, I just pressed the Let's Go Live button. And so let's wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet. Before we go ahead and get started, we got some business to attend to. But we can't start until we can make sure the tubes are working. Looks like they are. That's tremendous. Let's go ahead and get started, shall we? As soon as this microphone is nice and centered. Perfect. How we doing over there? We're looking good. Let's go. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney, and today we are talking about the Trump prosecution, this one taking place out of Washington, D.C., related to the January 6th charges. We had a very important hearing today about the protective order. The protective order is something we've been battling about over this entire week because the government wanted Trump totally gagged, totally silenced. They created this little designation called sensitive material, and then they just said everything that we talk about all the time, everywhere, is sensitive material, and they wanted him to not be able to talk about any of that. So they were in court. Trump had his physical presence waived, but apparently it was a pretty spicy hearing, and for that we'll take a look at the court docket and then go over to Brandy Buckman. You may remember her testimony, or her reporting rather, from the Proud Boys trial and some other legal reporting that she does for, I believe, Law and Crime now. And so she was there. She's going to walk us through what happened in court. We'll do a read through of what happened, and then we will actually take a look at the protective order, because this is a big, important issue. This is where we see these two worlds coming to a head. We have, free speech land, campaign land, where we are allowed to talk and express ourselves, especially when we're the victims, in Trump's case, of a political weaponized prosecution. That's kind of his only tool, which is to speak. So if they try to limit him and shut him up, that is a big problem. But on the other hand, I mean, to be fair, we also have a criminal system, and most people think it's legitimate. And if it is legitimate, then we do want it to operate legitimately. And so the court has this standard that it has to adhere to. And so the government, in this case, the judge has to find the middle ground, but the government wants even more than that. They want Trump just totally gagged, totally silenced. And so this is all coming to a head, and we'll see exactly what happened in the protective order. Then we will also go over and do some follow-up on what happened today. We know bright and early this morning, Merrick Garland came out and appointed a total scam, sham special counsel. This thing is just a joke. And we were talking about this live on our members only stream this morning. So I'm not going to go through exactly what happened. I'm presuming you already saw that. We covered it live. It was a lot of fun. We were all sort of surprised and taken aback by it. But I want to hit the reaction to this and really dive into the legalities, because Merrick Garland only just spoke for about 4 minutes. But people are asking this question, including ex-prosecutors, including guys like Andrew Weissman, who are not generally people I agree with. He's coming out and he's saying, this whole thing is very questionable, almost might be illegal outside of the Code of Federal Regulations. And so that was his take. And then also it is being joined by McCarthy, somebody who's on the other end of this. And two ex-prosecutors are now asking, wait a minute, I thought there were rules that said that you can't just appoint a special counsel from within the government. It's got to be somebody outside of the government. That's why they are special. They're not just a regular prosecutor. They're a special prosecutor. But if he's just now a regular prosecutor who gets escalated into a special prosecutor, we're all going, this is weird. So we'll take a look at the Code of Federal Regulations and see what it actually says, listen into a couple clips. Then we'll go to the Oversight Committee and see what they said in response to this, because they're just saying this is a cover-up through and through. We've got reaction from some various campaigns, including Donald Trump and the campaign spokesman for his team. We have also got Nikki Haley had a comment about this, and so did Mike Pence. And it was just about as basic as you'd expect from Mike Pence. Every time I see a clip from him, I'm like, gosh, this guy. And so he came out and he gave us the lowest common denominator possible take. And I was wondering if we were going to get this from some Republicans, and lo and behold, it's Mike Pence. Jonathan Turley responded to that. And so we'll get reaction to the special counsel. And then there's some consequence of the special counsel. And dun, 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 we've got now the first motion to dismiss. Oh, isn't that fun? So remember how this works is they just will slowly whittle away and water down these charges. And they filed a motion today in the court of Delaware to say, hey, half the charges that we were focused on, they have to go away now because there's a venue problem. And now because we have this breakdown in the plea deal, and now because this is going over to the special counsel, we better just dismiss this charge. But we promise that we'll file it later because we're the DOJ. And we got a special counsel now. The same guy who wrecked the first time. So we're just going to have a no. So the whole thing's just hysterical. And CBS is digging in on this, and she's talking to people over on the inside saying the whole strategy is just delay. Push this thing back. Special counsel will bog the whole thing down for a couple of years, push it out past the election, and they'll see if they can squeeze Biden through. We got a quick clip from Lindsey Graham. He says, we're not done here, all right? You're not off the hook there, David Weiss. You're not off the hook there. We're going to be calling you in for testimony at some point. And so we'll go through all of that and more. It is a lovely Friday, my friends, and I'm so grateful that you joined us today as we go through all of this maddening madness. This morning, we had a lovely members-only stream where we were covering a lot of stuff. I mean, this morning was jam-packed. We had the George Allen Kelly hearing that we were covering, and then the announcement came from Merrick Garland, and we were like, whoa, okay, special counsel, and we had some live reaction to that. So if you wanted to check that out, join as a member. We also had a merch update. We talked a lot about our merch that we're working on and got some input from our supporters. Thank you for everybody who was there and joining us as we did a little bit of show and tell. This is the new logo that we're working with. It's probably going to end up on hats. We had some adjustments to the face to Lady Justice, and so this is what we're playing around with. But if you want some more details on that, of course, join as a member on YouTube or over on Locals, and the store should be coming soon, baby. We are getting close. And this is going to be happening over at robertgovea.com, which is where the store will be. And you can, of course, go there, sign up to get access to the mind map. All the documents that we're about to go through is available, robertgovea.com. We now have our video segments also being created as reports so that you can just go and you can see all the stuff that we're working on here, read a report, and read the news. If you don't want to watch the full video, sometimes I know we get a little bit of pressed for time. So that's the new website. Got dark mode over there at the bottom right. Love that dark mode, kind of a dark mode kind of guy on everything. And so check that out, robertgovea.com. Store is coming soon, and I appreciate everybody who is helping us build it. I mean, this is sort of a community project, so thanks for everybody who is contributing and offering suppliers. Shout out to Zach Nichols who connected us and other people. It's just awesome. And it also, you may not have seen this, but our friend Vientikis printed us out, speaking of new logos, printed us out a 3D rendered, here, let's see if we can do a little show and tell while we're here. Vientikis Prime, shout out to the mods. Look at this logo. Here, let's fire this up. It's Friday, okay, we'll take a minute. Look at this, baby. Woo! That's going to be the new logo. And so I'm going to be working on setting this up probably over the weekend here. And Vientikis 3D printed this, and so we can put some LEDs in the back. And the Justice spotlight shines through Lady Justice fighting for accountability and transparency and justice, baby. So super cool. Thank you to Vientikis for printing that out for us. Very, very cool. And so we're working on all sorts of fun stuff, and I'm just grateful for everybody who is, joining us as we assemble and have all this great fun together. So that's happening at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Also, if you're a member on YouTube, you join us for a lot of the same stuff. The only thing we ask is for our after show, after party. You join us on Telegram, where we go through all of that good stuff. And it's just a ton of fun. So shout out to our Locals and YouTube members. Now, before we get into the meat and potatoes, of course, we got to be healthy, we got to be well, and we got to lose some of those leftover pandemic pounds, because we all have seen all the ads, and there's a lot of them these days. Stuff this and inject that and poke this and poke that. And we've all been there and done that. And we know a lot of these things are just not as good as just eating healthy. And so this is where we're going to talk about our friends at Field of Greens, where, look, I know vegetables, it's easy to not be a fan of those, and fruit, it's a lot of work. But Field of Greens makes it all very simple. It is a science-backed formula, very specific fruits and vegetables that you're not going to find in any other product. And proper nutrition reboots your metabolism so you burn calories faster and lose weight a healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. Yes, you're going to look and feel healthier fast, but the greater proof is going to come at your next checkup when your doctor walks in there and says, "Oh my goodness, you're looking amazing." Whatever you're doing, keep it up. And so let's get you started. Go on over to fieldofgreens.com. Enter in code Robert, and you'll save 15% off when you check out. There's a lot of good stuff there, not just the greens, but if you read the ingredients on the greens, it's really quite good. It's not going to give you hair like this. Probably not. Probably won't. Unless you eat a lot of it. I mean, I don't know how much you have to eat to get that, but the vegetables do want to be eaten. That's why they're here on this planet. And so make sure you're healthy, my friends, courtesy of our friends at Field of Greens. All right. And so we've got some business to attend to, and let's go ahead and get right to it. The Trump prosecution on the January 6th case crosses another hurdle. We had a very complex battle taking place over the protective order. Protective order is going to be the rules that govern the rest of the prosecution. Can Donald Trump and his defense team talk about this, or is the government going to be successful and deny them from being able to talk about anything? And this is where we've got two major entities, institutions in our country coming to a head. We've got the criminal justice system that wants to protect the sanctity of the criminal justice system. And we've got free speech and the ability to defend yourself in a court of public opinion when part of your very claim is that the DOJ itself is corrupted. And your only defense mechanism is to call out that very corruption. So a protective order or a gag order that stops Trump from being able to criticize what many people believe is a completely unjustified prosecution because it's coming from Joe Biden and Merrick Garland in the middle of an election year on the back of something that is an unprecedented framing of prosecution for conduct that has been done by other Democrats to even worse degrees in many cases, if you want to do a compare and contrast. So we are going to go through the actual proceeding. What happened when everybody showed up in court to battle over this? You can see the minute entry from the court was quite brief. You see it says on August 11th, hearing on the parties' respective protective order proposals. Trump had a proposal, was basically saying we should be able to talk about everything. The government had a protective order that said they shouldn't be able to talk about anything, and they were going to label it sensitive material and almost like classified information, but not really. So the judge said, the court shall issue a protective order consistent with the rulings made on the record, which is what we're going to go through in the court transcript courtesy of Brandy Buckman. The oral order on the pretrial conference for the classified documents. This is not the classified documents case in Florida, but there are classified documents apparently in this case, or classified evidence that's part of disclosure. So they're going to run a parallel process on that might slow the whole thing down. But they said the hearing for SEPA, that's going to happen back on August 28th. Everybody was there. John Lauro, Todd Blanche on behalf of Donald Trump, along with another lawyer called Gregory Singer. U.S. attorneys there, Thomas Windham and Molly Gaston. And so for the proceedings of the day, let's go over to Brandy Buckman, who does some great reporting, and I believe she's now with Law and Crime News. She did the Proud Boy trial, and we followed her great reporting previously. So make sure you're giving her a follow at Brandy Buckman and following and supporting her work. So she's there. You see she's outside the courthouse. She says that some other things were filed that we've already talked about. Media presence is pretty light. Why? Donald Trump's not there. And she says her lonely bag was over there. And so now she's in the media room and she's going to be able to live tweet. And away we go. All rise. Oh, crap, judge is coming. Stand up, stand up. Hey, get off your phone. All right. All right, please be seated. Judge Tanya Chutkan presiding. The case is United States of America versus Donald Trump. We're on the record. Appearances, please. For the government, Thomas Windham, Your Honor, and Molly Gaston says, Your Honor, I'll be representing the government today. Thomas Windham speaking. Judge looks over to the defense table. John Lauro stands up. Good morning, Your Honor. John Lauro, Todd Blanche are here for Trump. We also have Mr. Greg Singer, who is here. John says, I'll be doing the speaking today. The judge smiles around and says, good morning. Good morning, defense. Good morning, Mr. Government. Brandy says, beneath her black robes, she wears a bright orange blouse. She can tell from the collar. She says, well, you're welcome to stay seated as we go through the proceedings today. No need to hop up and down to discuss this protective order. So just feel free to sit down. And we see this has been something that we hear often in a lot of federal courts. The judge says, all right, well, I want to get started by reviewing where we are. And so bring me up to speed. Sounds like the parties haven't been able to agree on the terms of the protective orders. And that's obviously why we're here. And she says, so I want to thank everybody for appearing here on short notice. As we know, the judge set a very compressed time frame on this. The defense, Donald Trump's defense, wanted some additional time, and the judge said no. She said, I wasn't available on Friday initially, but then it became available. So thanks, okay. So the judge originally said no Friday, and now Friday became available, so they all made it happen. She says, I want to take a minute on the briefing schedule. I'm looking at the scheduling here. It says, under the local rules, a party can oppose a motion within 14 days of service, and under Rule 47D, the default deadline is within 7 days. But she says, I routinely depart from the local rules, and I think that a normal briefing schedule is actually appropriate. So she's addressing the defense objection. The defense was upset. How did you schedule this so quickly? She said, well, I know what the rules say. I get the rules, and I'm referencing the rules, but I routinely depart from the rules. I determined that a shorter briefing schedule was appropriate given the brevity of the proposed protective order. It was just very short. It's like a couple pages, so it's just short. So you can read through it quickly. She says, well, there may be other times when the schedule is shorter or longer than the local rules, just depending upon the need. So just get used to that, defense. If you think we're going to follow rules here, get out of here. So Judge Chutkan is going line through line by the proposed order. She reads line 1. She says, I'm going to go through this, and some things I can rule on now, some things we'll rule on after, and then I'm going to issue a protective order consistent with today's ruling. Sound good, everybody? They say, yeah. She says the rules here in D.C., they state that the binding precedent is that the burden of showing good cause is on the parties seeking the order. So, government, it's your burden. So we're going to start with you. You've got the burden of showing why we need this order. It's not Trump's burden to say why we don't need it. There's no presumption that we just get it. So you got to justify it. And some reasons why it might be justified. Safety of witnesses or others might be one thing we consider. Danger of perjury or witness intimidation, and protection of vital information to national security, right? She's framing this out. She says inadmissible prejudicial information can be kept from a jury after a trial, according to the Supreme Court. When it's published before the trial, it can never be kept from potential jurors. She's citing some case law. She said, I've reviewed this. The trial court can and show, where appropriate, place defendant under orders that prevent unwarranted disclosure. So she's laying the foundation for what she's going to do before we even get started. She says, all right, now, before we get started, I want to be clear. Trump, like every American, has a right to free speech, but that right is not absolute. It's subject to conditions imposed at arraignment, which is the initial court date. So, accordingly, says the judge, I will review each disputed portion of the protected order today to ensure that they are consistent with Trump's rights and the integrity of the judicial process. Little balancing test happening here. In other words, there's good cause for the order I will issue. Everybody's sitting there going, okay. So she says, I want to note that the biggest disagreement here is over the scope of the order. What is included and what is not. The government wants every single sticky note included. Don't even talk about what this prosecutor had for lunch. Otherwise, Trump's going to prison. And Trump wants to talk about everything. And obviously, I'm on that side. I would like to see the grand jury transcripts, all of it released. This is the biggest case of public importance, arguably, in modern history. They say January 6th was the biggest attack on American democracy since the Civil War. So why would we not see everything? Can we just see the grand jury transcripts so we can be sure that they're being honest in their grand jury proceedings? Defendant wants all materials. Prosecution wants to place limits on sensitive materials. So Chutkan turns over to the prosecutor, Wyndham. Says, all right, Mr. Prosecutor, you said there was good cause in your proposed order. You said it would expedite the flow of discovery. And we lampoon this big time. We're like, we don't care that you organized it in little columns. Thank you. You said you would give a large portion of the discovery to Trump, and you said that we needed this order to protect highly sensitive categories of material. But the judge says, but I don't see why those same goals aren't served by the defense proposal. Like, all right, their order does the same thing. It's also going to expedite discovery. It's also going to give us discovery. It's also going to protect sensitive categories. So what's the problem? The government says, well, Your Honor, that's the largest philosophical difference between the government's proposed order and Trump's people. The government wants the protective order to cover all discovery. Trump only wants sensitive discovery covered. He says, in our proposal, they highlighted the threat of improper dissemination of materials to the public by Trump as a cause for concern. And we need to ensure that the purpose of discovery is used appropriately. And we know the purpose of discovery is used for fair adjudication in court. It's not used in the court of public opinion. Prosecutor continues. It's also to protect security and dignity and reputation of witnesses, and it's to prevent pretrial publicity. These are the three overlapping core objectives that underlie the special counsel's request for this order. He says, Your Honor, Trump's proposal is designed specifically to try the case in the media. He wants the court's blessing to use criminal discovery for political purposes, and that's not an appropriate use of discovery at all. And pausing here, I'll just say that we believe that actually, this is one of the only tools that Trump has against a weaponized prosecution. If the entity itself, if the Justice Department is corrupted, they have to be able to speak out about it. They can't operate within the confines of the system to defend themselves within the corrupted system. Now, a judge is not going to recognize that. A judge is not going to say, yeah, you're right, DC courts are corrupt. Actually, you're right, I do have biases and prejudices against other J6 cases that have come before me, or I've recused myself from other Trump cases for other reasons, or I have a history here that might jeopardize my ability to be fair and impartial. They would never do that. That's their judges. And that's like their whole basis for existence is to, be impartial no matter what. So this is Trump's only real defense, is to speak in the court of public opinion to show that what's happening in the court system is problematic. That's why Jack Smith wants it all silenced, so that he can't do that. The judge says, okay, all that may be so, but how is that explaining why all of this material, both sensitive and non-sensitive, what is the good cause that you have for subjecting non-sensitive material to the order? So she says, thanks for that little speech. And the prosecutor says, well, Your Honor, the non-sensitive material, it falls within the same rubric I just laid out. Even if it's non-sensitive, it may still be inadmissible, it may be irrelevant, but it may be sensational. It may be used by Trump or by Trump to pollute the jury pool. Exactly. By exposing your corrupt prosecution. By exposing all of this. If your evidence is so amazing, if this is a case where Trump is dead to rights, why can't we see it all and the people can judge for themselves? It might pollute the jury pool. Why? By showing them that you have created this out of thin air, whether purposefully or not. Wyndham notes Trump's own posts. He says he's posting all over Truth Social, and we covered that at length. He had like 13 posts in like hours. Lauro's appearances on television last weekend. John Lauro did the same thing because this was a tactical strategy to go out. If they're going to limit your free speech, you gobble it up. We're running out of this thing, man. It's a free-for-all. It's like the streets of San Francisco. You're running into Walgreens and getting all the free speech you can because nobody's going to do anything about it yet. And then the judge is going to come back and limit it up. So Lauro's doing the same thing. He's on television all last weekend. And the judge says, well, the defense has a right, within limits, of course, to speak about the case, obviously. The circuit says I have to enunciate good cause for protecting the information. Prosecutor says, Your Honor, the vast majority of the discovery, would be designated as sensitive. We would designate everything as sensitive, though that would be in dispute by the defense. Of course they are. For non-sensitive from the government, she says Tom says, there's a fairly small amount. There's a fairly small amount of non-sensitive, okay? They're going to label everything sensitive. Why don't they release this? Why can't our government just tell us what happened? Why can't we see all the footage? Why can't they even tell us what happened to JFK decades ago? They can't tell us. It was January 6th. It was an insurrection. Don't you want this written in the history books? They were willing to have 8 different fake hearings for us with Liz Cheney. Now we're in an actual court. Where are the prosecutors at? Not so much bravado when you got to lay it out in the court of law. So instead, they'll bucket everything up into sensitive material, which is a nice made up term. And then they craft it on here. And then they say there's also some classified document, and the rest of it is non-sensitive. Just a fairly small amount. He says it could be that 1/4 of the material that is relevant is in that category. And so the judge says, all right, well, if I understand what you're saying, is even the non-sensitive information, you say even the non-sensitive information that it could be used for witness intimidation or for reputational damage, is that true? If so, then why would that non-sensitive, why wouldn't it be sensitive? And the prosecutor says, well, it wouldn't be sensitive within the definitions we laid out, but it still could be used for those purposes. And so the prosecutor is now pushing back. He says, Your Honor, in a judicial proceeding, the good cause standard, like the only thing that I have to meet, it should be sufficient for the protection of all discovery material. It's all important. And there's a potential for damaging reputation depending on what non-sensitive it is. And she says, prosecutor, he says, Your Honor, and the defense trumps people. They've already broadcast their strategy. And that is not to try this case in this courtroom. And the court should address that. And she says, well, and I intend to, but my task here is really somewhat narrower, and I don't want this issue to be over-inclusive. So what I actually need from you, Mr. Prosecutor, is to enunciate good cause for this order. Says, I don't want to issue a blanket order. I'm not going to just include everything in there. Says, so why don't the parties, you go back and review the materials, you designate what is sensitive, what's non-sensitive. And he says, okay, we agree with that. He says, the government is focused on getting this to trial in a timely fashion. That's all he cares about. We have to go quickly. The judge in Florida is really screwing this up. We are focused on getting this to trial in a timely fashion. And she says, oh, I agree. We're going, baby. We're going fast. So government says, since the sensitivity amount is so large, basically everything, under government order, it would mean that the defendant couldn't take the discovery to the weekend shows. Judge says, well, if I designated all as sensitive, can't the defense come to me and say, we believe this doc is not sensitive? And they say, yeah, they could do that, but it would still be under protected order and it couldn't be disseminated unless you order otherwise. And this is where, like, the defense is probably squirming in his seat right now. Laurel's like, ah! And he's about to explode, but the judge is not, it's not his turn yet. Because what the government is asking for is the default to be, it's all protected, and Trump, if you want to talk about it, go ask for permission. We know what's going to happen every time they ask for permission. Denied. Obviously. Because what's Trump going to say? I'm going to go use this case to make an argument on CNN? No. Judge is going to say, well, that's not really in my purview. So they're never going to ask for it or get it. So it's ridiculous that it would be all but. It should be none except. Brandy Buckman says, Wyndham says, if this order should prove unworkable, this is the government. If this doesn't work, the rules say we can revise it. And the government believes that the defendant, Trump, will engage in, quote, endless litigation over the materials without the order. And John Lauro, the defense attorney for Trump, she turns over to him. Lauro says, Your Honor, I think you hit the nail on the head here. Judge says, well, that might be the last time you say that one. Lauro's laughing. Judge is laughing. Everyone's laughing. Lauro says, oh, no, I doubt that, Your Honor. No. You're going to be absolutely correct in this trial many times because you're very smart and you're going to see how ridiculous this is and you're going to follow the law and we're going to be completely logical and transparent and you're going to agree with us more than you think. He says, Your Honor, we're asking the government to just show good cause here. Your Honor designated those items under Rule 16 in case law. Extrajudicial speech or public speech is not one of the good cause factors. It's not one of them. Judge says, well, but hold on, John. It says, if that speech causes witness intimidation or harassment, then it must yield. and says, just to be clear here, the fact that Donald is running a political campaign means he has to yield to the ordinary order of justice. And there's a back and forth. Lauro says, we don't have a normal situation here, Your Honor. This is not normal order, which is the exact answer. Ordinarily, we'd agree. Ordinarily, if you are running a political campaign, that doesn't exonerate you from other crimes. But if you're running a political campaign and you're being prosecuted by the number one political opponent in the country who is in control of the DOJ and who has made comments like, we'll do whatever we can under the powers of the Constitution to stop him, and has made statements like Merrick Garland needs to do something about this, it is not ordinary order. The whole premise here is gone, which is why we run into a very precarious position here. Because if the judge comes down on this and says that Trump is absolutely gagged, we're now really playing with fire, because now he can just say that is a completely unreasonable order in violation of free speech, and we come to a major head. So Lauro's making this argument, says, Judge, we don't have a normal situation. And the judge says, well, what about a situation where a person is denigrating a witness? How are we going to protect that? She's asking questions. What is meant to protect that from happening, John? Why don't I turn it back on you? It's your client. What am I supposed to do if somebody's denigrating a witness? John says, well, obviously, Lauro says, since prosecutors brought this case in the middle of the campaign, Trump has a right to respond to his political opponents. She says, but that has to yield. This is literally the head. This is the battle. And we're going to see where this goes. This could be nothing. We could set a protective order and Trump colors within the lines for the rest of the trial. I doubt it. Or the government demands that something he said is a violation of the order and we have to go duke it out. But the judge says that has to yield. That's her opinion. That's her order. But Trump is running to control the executive branch. If he wins, he will be in control and he will literally pardon himself and this whole thing will go away. So that's a defense strategy, a legal, legitimate defense strategy. Might feel weird, but it is, because this is all insane. In other words, a legitimate defense strategy is to run for the presidency and win it and pardon yourself and dump this whole case, which is why they're going so fast. They want to get it done. The need for this to proceed, says the judge, says regardless of what's going on with his, I hate to say, his day job, regardless of what's going on, this is a criminal case. The need for this to proceed in normal order and to protect witnesses, the integrity of the process, there are going to be limits on the defendant's speech. And I want to be crystal clear on this. I am not making the argument that Trump should be allowed to threaten witnesses or to intimidate witnesses at all, or to jeopardize the integrity of the process in a normal sense of the phrase. But Trump commenting on what is a process that has no integrity is within bounds. The process doesn't have integrity, and that's what he's commenting on. So if you're limiting that, in my opinion, you're violating his literal due process rights under the law, because he has to comment about the broken integrity of the process. And this is going to be the argument if this ever comes back to a head. So John Lauro, the defense, says, Your Honor, well, we can't be subject to a contempt trap. She cuts him off. Well, no, we're not talking about a contempt trap, all right? Don't go there. What we're talking about here are the parameters of this order. What we're all considering means there are certain things, if they have an impact on the administration of justice or witnesses, that they can't be said regardless. They can't be said regardless of what political activity the defendant is engaged in. And we'll see what that is, right? What does the administration of justice mean? Because the court can administer justice, and we certainly don't want Trump to interfere with the court administering justice, but he should absolutely be able to comment on the government, the executive branch, which is his literal opponent, his enemy, his adversarial opponent. And we don't give them the benefit of the doubt of the administration of justice, especially when they are prosecuting their political opponent. So it's very dicey territory. Defense says, Your Honor, if Trump has a memory of something on the campaign trail and he wants to talk about, he's entitled to speak about that. And she says, no, Trump can't speak about details of the case he's being tried on. Whoa, what? We'll see how that goes. Lauro, the defense says, Your Honor, subject to limitations that you have described, Trump understands that he has to abide by the rules of this court, but he still balks at speech. Judge says, well, what the effects on the political campaign are not before me, and they're not going to influence me here. So what I do here is totally separate from the campaign. And that might be fine for her. Like, she might live okay with that. And Trump, as part of his defense, will be, I believe, is going to be to reject that, to say, no, this is part of the political campaign, right? They are one and the same, in other words. You can try to separate them out, but I'm being prosecuted by Joe Biden, who's my opponent in a campaign. This is a criminal trial, she says, brought at the time the prosecution was ready to bring charges. Right in the middle of a campaign. He's already announced he's running. He's already been running. They're asking for a trial right around the Iowa caucuses. I don't have control over that, says the judge. Okay, nobody's asking that, but I don't know what that's about. Okay. And I cannot and I will not factor in my decisions on whether it will affect a political campaign on either side, which is great. Like, that means that you're working with, that's a benefit to the government. They're thrilled about that, because that means that you're not going to consider it and you're going to allow a trial to go on in the middle of a campaign, because these people are living in this little bizarro world where they think that they can live on an island where none of this stuff matters. Well, I'll tell you what, it's going to matter. I mean, people are going to have a reaction to this, and they might live in DC and think that they still exist in a world of legitimacy, but the rest of the country doesn't buy it. Defense says, Your Honor, Trump is overburdened by requirements that the defense counsel have to be present to review these sensitive materials. He says witness interviews should also be designated as non-sensitive. So they're going through the different line items. Chutkan says, we'll get to all that. He says, Your Honor, by the way, special counsel's request, Jack Smith, this blanket order is way too ambiguous. He says the risk here is someone can say something in a heated debate or a campaign, and then someone's going to throw a flag. Because somewhere in the bowels of discovery, millions of documents, someone will find something to ding Trump with. And we already know that they've got teams of prosecutors who have no lives, no friends at all, and just gross. And they just sit around on True Social all day just monitoring Trump's truth so that they can file filings on Saturday night. Defense says that they will abide by whatever order she sets. Says, okay, Your Honor, I understand. Whatever you decide to set, we're going to respect the court. Judge says, I'm happy to hear that. Laura's still pushing. But just so we're clear, though, we are going to accept it. But I just want to say, we also can't ignore, right? He's in the middle of a political campaign. The judge says, I reiterate, the existence of a political campaign is not going to have any bearing on my decision, any more than any other lawyer coming in before me and saying their client needs to do their job, all right? So you go in, you say, Your Honor, my client's a doctor and he's going to be in surgery on Friday and we can't have it. And she says, okay, maybe we'll move it. Or maybe she says, I don't care if he's a doctor. Trial's going anyways, right? Same thing. Trump's just another person. The fact that he is running for president is not that consequential to her. Or that he's being prosecuted by Joe Biden, not that consequential. Just every other criminal. Judge keeps trying to parse between non-sensitive and sensitive. She said, I'm trying to separate these two. Defense says that's why they wanted an order to put the burden on the prosecutor. They've got to determine what's sensitive or not. She says, that's a good point. So how about you tell me about that, prosecutor? Says defense counsel, Wyndham is up. He says, Your Honor, Trump's lawyers have made comments that are political in nature here in this courtroom. Okay, so they're complaining. I want to address those, but I will say it is emblematic of what Trump has done more recently, including since we filed this a week ago. And Trump's lawyers have made no secret what his intention is. The good cause here is to prevent pollution of the jury. Judge says, all right, quit your crying. All right, this is the first thing. I want you to focus on sensitive versus non-sensitive. All right, stop it. And whether it should all be subject to the order or not. Prosecutor says, well, the government's aim is to prevent any disclosure of information that would taint the jury pool. So she says, okay, I agree. But you still have to show cause for the non-sensitive stuff. Prosecutor says, I can't be more specific. They have ID'd what they intend to do with it, even if it's not sensitive. So he's just saying, I don't care what it is. They've explained that they're going to use it improperly no matter what it is. He says Trump intends to do what Trump intends to do pre-trial, Your Honor, could still damage the jury pool, even if it is non-sensitive. He could still intimidate witnesses. And he says other orders, just like the one we have here, have come before this in other cases. And he pulls up other cases. And this is also an interesting thing. Is Trump going to get an extra benefit of the doubt here? Is he going to get a lesser protective order because he's gotten lesser charges? He's also gotten lesser release conditions or more beneficial release conditions. So why, if Trump is this lead insurrectionist who is going to take over America, is he getting more beneficial deals? Wyndham notes, he says, Judge, other orders like this have come before in this court in other cases just like this one. Here's this other case called Butina. And she says, but I think the difference with the Butina case, which now seems so small and quiet compared to this, there was no argument there in that case that the defendant needed to speak. Like I said to Lauro, the fact that the fact that there is a political campaign won't influence my decision one way or another, but I do have to weigh all the limitations on his First Amendment rights. Even without the protective order, Trump is subject to pretrial release conditions, which also prevent him from interfering with the ordinary administration of justice. And so engaging in that behavior that intimidates a witness is already illegal. Like, you already can't do that stuff. So why do we need this additional protective order to shut him up more? He's already limited. So why are you asking for this? The government says, well, the protective order just limits the information and data that he could use in the event that he wants to go after a potential witness, just making stuff up. But if he says something that he clearly got from a transcript, the judge says, okay, but a transcript could be designated as sensitive. And she says, see, look, I'm really trying to determine if I need to subject the non-sensitive materials in the order also to protection. The government says, it's hard to speak in abstract, Your Honor. But in addition to overriding principles laid out by the government's order is appropriately limited. It does exempt info that is public. The defendant and defense attorneys have come into it independently through the discovery process. The judge says, well, it is close, but at this point, I'm not persuaded. I'm not persuaded the government has shown good cause to subject to the protective order for all the information. I will adopt the defendants provide the scope, and the government deems what is sensitive. Government's not happy about that. Judge says, I will tell you, Trump is also covered by conditions of release that he already signed at the arraignment, and all of his behaviors and statements are governed by the conditions. She says, if Trump makes statements that intimidate or harass witnesses, she warns, I'm going to be scrutinizing that closely. She's looking at John Lauro like, looking at you there, buddy boy. You better tell that Trump. She says, I don't accept that Trump's edit in the filing that exempts anything that became publicly available. She says discovery could become matter in a number of ways, some improper. So I'm going to retain that language. She goes through paragraph 3. And they're flying through the order. Lauro says, as we build our team with this incredibly large team, Your Honor, we have consultants and others working with us, including some people have volunteered. We got volunteer lawyers, we got paralegals. It's going to be impossible to get ready for these on these terms the government is seeking. It's an impossible task, says the defense. Unless we have people who will abide by the rules. So in order to defend this case, we need more manpower working on it. And the judge says, okay, well, look, no one is more aware than I am that you're defending Mr. Trump in more than one jurisdiction. He's also got a case in Florida. But there is a process. And the judge says, I can't allow a definition that would allow anyone, including potentially unindicted co-conspirators, to have access to these materials. If there's a lawyer or consultant, then they've got to fit the definition. She says, I live in Washington. Anyone can be a consultant here. Brandy says it's true. I'm a private consultant for ice cream. Yeah, so am I. Lauro says, asked to submit alternative language, but adds, anyone who sees any discovery in this case will be done at my direction. Says, Your Honor, it's not going to be haphazard. It's not going to be everybody. Judge says, anyone who sees discovery is going to have to sign that they're bound, okay? Prosecutor stands up. Says, Your Honor, the thing I'm worried about are the transcripts and the audio recordings. She asks, are they from confidential sources? Government says, during the course of the investigation, it was the government general practice to audio record the witness interviews. And there are hundreds of recordings of witness interviews. What is or is not confidential? It's hard to say when you're talking about a recipient fact witness that to the defendant's criminal conduct. Says, I want this in here. It's going to prevent Trump from putting a post out and attaching a 3-second snippet of an audio recording. It'll prevent him from sending out a mass mailing to the prospective jury pool in D.C. It's going to prevent pollution of the jury. And the judge says, okay, any other materials you want to exclude? And prosecutor points to this one. Judge says to the defense, okay, Mr. Lauro, your client's defense is supposed to happen in this courtroom, not on the internet. To the extent he wants to make statements on the internet, they have to always yield to witness security and safety. That's what I'm worried about. He says, but Your Honor, but it's not going to be fair for the prosecution to throw a red flag, okay? He's going to say something. Trump's going to go on press blitz, and he's going to be speaking. He's campaigning for president, Your Honor. And then when he says something, the government's just going to say, up illegal, up illegal, up illegal. That came from discovery. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Order to show cause. Judge says, well, Lauro, you're not helping yourself here, okay? You're actually causing me some concern. You're telling me he's going to go out on the press and talk about the case? She says, the former president who is engaged in a political campaign talking about potential witnesses who may not have the kind of protection he has, she says, I see a lot of possibility for problems here. Yeah, she's right about that. There are. Maybe they should have thought about that before they prosecuted this. Lots of problems. A lot of things are going to happen to a lot of people involved in this. Not bad things, I'm saying. A lot of people are going to be involved. A lot of people are going to be nervous. What's happening? What's going on? He says there's going to be arguments on the campaign trail. If one of the statements overlap into the discovery, we've got a problem. He says he's a criminal defendant, okay, John? He's going to have restrictions just like every other defendant. The fact that he's engaged in a political campaign, I'm not giving him any greater or lesser attitude. He says, we understand, Your Honor, but the order paints too broadly. All we're asking for is more specificity. She says, well, the government should have good cause for why the materials are sensitive. Says, I agree with you, but as to the non-sensitive, it wouldn't be covered. But now we're talking about what can be designated as sensitive. And so far, I'm not persuaded by your argument that witness interviews and recordings are not covered. Says, I think that Lauro, the defense says, I think the government can easily identify what they think is sensitive. They're capable of that. They can just say this is sensitive, that's not sensitive, rather than putting it into this big bucket. Government says, no, our proposed order is much more specific. Their order's nebulous. Every single person we interviewed is a potential trial witness, so all of them are sensitive. Says, I guess the next argument from them would be to designate what, specific pages? Says, no. That's too much work for us, okay, Your Honor? That's like antithetical to the discovery process. You shouldn't make us do that. Don't make us go through everything and say what's sensitive or not. So the judge says, okay. Says, I'm going to keep the language in the government proposed protective order. around sensitive materials in place. Because I'm concerned about witness intimidation, I'm sure. Safety and order, right? Either side can seek a modification later, she notes. She says materials from other government entities for discovery will be considered sensitive material. Amazing, just like the government proposed. Lauro gets a dig in or two about January 6th. Right, because we would love to see all of that. Now, Trump's not going to be able to talk about anything from the FBI or Homeland Security. So we can't see any undercover people or any of the exculpatory evidence that might come from the January 6th portion of this. Nice. They say the government's going to mark sensitive materials. The judge asks the prosecutors, can you segregate? Do you intend to segregate and mark every page? He says, no, we're not going to mark every page. That would be prohibitively slow. Judge says, we agree. There will be multiple demarcations. We'll just stamp the top page or something. Judge says, I do think marking every page would be unworkable. So like what happens if one page leaks out? Would delay this for a reason that is not really a problem. I don't mind taking the time to ensure things are done right, but it seems like a solution in search of a problem. Defense says, we're fine with it, Judge. I just resent the fact that the government has been searching for prior orders in other cases. She laughs. She says, all right, I feel your pain. Laurel smiles a bit. Says, I'm also going to retain language about forcing the defense to be required to review Trump's notes. Defense wants to get rid of that. The judge says, nope, you've got to check Trump's homework. So Trump can review the materials and he can take notes about it, but the defense has to look at his notes. Because if Trump wrote any personal identifiable information in there, illegal. Defense says, Your Honor, I want Trump to be able to review some of these documents in private. I don't want to be able to literally sit next to him while he reviews transcripts. And the judge says, well, would your client be able to review notes and materials in private, but afterwards you could check his notes? So he didn't steal any illegal discovery? Prosecutor says, Your Honor, they didn't object to this language, but understands Lauro is asking that he doesn't need to sit next to Trump, since it's about collecting the material. Says, have the client read the transcripts that could be relevant and then coordinate with us. Judge says, all right, look, I'm inclined to allow the order to say that Trump can inspect any, that lawyers can inspect any notes, would apply whether Trump is accompanied by the lawyers or not. Government says the defense has a certain level of trust in Trump that the government does not. Defense notes or government notes said Trump in a press said there should be no protective order at all, which I agree with. He's indicated a potential to break the terms. Judge says, I share those concerns. Says, I understand. I've represented a lot of criminals, so sometimes we will diverge, she says as she laughs. Says, I want more information. The notes will be reviewed to ensure that they don't include any identifying information, right? Says Trump could photocopy or reproduce sensitive materials if he's alone. That risk would be much lower if his lawyer is standing next to him. Judge says, you mean he could be live tweeting? Judge says, I mean, he could be taking a photo of it, any of it. They're kind of dunking on Trump here. He's shown a desire to hold on to materials that he should not. Judge makes you mean live tweeting it? Wow. Chutkan says that she thinks it would be burdensome for legal staff to be present anytime Trump reviews the materials. Government says, okay, we're not going to have his lawyers babysit him, but he shouldn't be allowed to have any devices or computers or anything that would allow him to replicate the materials. And someone has to be right outside the room to review the materials that come in and to collect them so nothing's lost. The judge says, of course, and then asks about the protective order in Florida and asks why Laura rejects it here, but Trump didn't do it there. Says even if Trump is reviewing alone in a room without a device, somebody has to safeguard it and collect it. Defense says, respectfully, the government hasn't shown good cause for that. Judge says the materials still have to be safeguarded. Lauro says, but Your Honor, the number of documents in this case, it's going to put Trump and his defense at an incredible disadvantage if we have to do this for every order. Judge says, I don't agree. You already had a protective order in Florida. So I will allow Trump to review the sensitive material without being accompanied by his member of his legal team, but I will retain the provision that requires them to review the notes to make sure there's no copies. He can't have access to a copy machine or anything that might reproduce those materials. And yeah, government says he can't keep custody of those on breaks or lunches either. Says, yeah, they can't be left alone with Trump because he's too dangerous. The man who might be the next president of this country. He's too dangerous. He might live tweet it, jokes the judge. So there's a few revisions. She says, I want as much of this trial on the public record as possible, except all the documents. The motion didn't persuade her. The government tried to file a motion under seal that we saw yesterday. And they're talking about discovery. Lauro says, the government won't tell us how much discovery there is, so we want a conference. And the judge says, well, as soon as I issue this order, aren't you going to deliver discovery? And says, yeah, there's a hard drive that we're going to send over to the defense. Well, how much is in it? Why can't you tell them? She says, well, he'll have it in a letter in 24 hours. Well, why don't you just tell him now? Prosecutor says, oh, well, I didn't want to say it in front of you, Judge. That's why I didn't want to say it now, because I didn't want you to hear this. That's why I was going to put it in a letter. You want me to tell you now? Oh, bummer. Thomas Wyndham, government prosecutor, says, oh, there's 11.6 million pages or files which are ready. 11.6 million. But they organized it in a spreadsheet. He says there's also a hard drive with 270 D returns and extractions. And I says, I think most of our discovery is going to be ready by August 28th. Judge turns over to Lauro. Says, I guess that given that information, you're going to want to change whatever you had in mind for a proposed trial date. No kidding. The judge says, look, as we wrap it up here, I'm committed to making sure this case proceeds in the normal order. This protective order is just one example of that. Courts routinely entered these for many reasons. There are no motions based on Trump's recent statement. They don't violate his terms of release, but I do want to point out a general word of caution, she says. As I have stressed at several points, I intend to ensure the orderly administration of justice and even arguably ambiguous statements, if they could reasonably be interpreted to intimidate witnesses or taint the jury pool, you see that, taint the jury pool, it will be addressed. Take special care about your public statements and tell your client that I will take whatever measures are necessary to safeguard the integrity of the case. I'll see you all on August 28th. Shout out to Brandy Buckman for the reporting on this. So we've got a lot to unpack. Let's go right over to the order itself and parse through it and see what they've got for us in greater detail to summarize all of this. It is not long, 5 pages. Here's the protective order. You can see it was granted in part and denied in part. So the government got some of what they wanted. Trump got some of what they wanted. Ultimately, I think this is mostly a win for the government. They didn't get everything that they wanted, but what's going to end up happening practically is they're going to call everything sensitive materials, and then Trump's not going to be able to talk about that. So they say no limit on anything that's already possessed or public, right? So if Trump can talk about it, if they came through it through independent means, or if it's unrelated to the discovery, thumbs up, we're good. The United States may designate stuff that is called sensitive material, and that may only be used by the defense solely in the connection of the defense of this case. And you shall not disclose any of this stuff outside of anything if it is sensitive. They shall not copy or reproduce anything before providing any materials. That any person who sees any of the sensitive materials must have permission and sign a copy. At the conclusion of the case, everything shall be destroyed or returned back to the government because it's sensitive. This paragraph doesn't apply to work product like from the attorneys. So all of the discovery needs to go back over after the case is over. This is from the government that wants to show us how bad all of this was, right? Of course, none of this applies to stuff that becomes part of the public record. And here's what they may designate as sensitive materials. Personally identifying information, anything from grand jury stuff, materials from search warrants that were sealed, sealed orders obtained by the government's filter team, and then this is the big one, subsection E and F. These are huge. Recordings, transcripts, interview reports, and related exhibits of witness interviews. That's, as I said, 100+ interviews. All sensitive material. It's basically the entire case, right? Like, that's the entire case. Materials obtained from other government entities, which also is going to be monster. So let's see what, I mean, that's got to be FBI, DOJ, Capitol Hill Police, Metro PD. This shall indicate to Trump's team which materials shall be sensitive. So now let's, for example, if Trump is out there and he says Mike Pence is a big loserville, and Mike Pence's statement is in here, and there's a statement about something Mike Pence said, and maybe it's also in discovery and Trump mentions it, they say, oh, Trump said something from some witness that appears in a transcript, and therefore he's in violation of this protective order. Now we should issue an order to show cause. They talk about what may be disclosed to Trump. They must be maintained in the custody of counsel. Counsel may show the stuff to Trump, just show it to him. And they don't need to be present, but they got to check him to make sure that he doesn't write down any notes, illegal notes. If Trump takes notes, that the defense must inspect those notes to ensure that he didn't copy any personal identifying information. So he can take notes, but if he has bad info in them, he's got to have his lawyers check it over. Anytime he reviews, because he might tweet about it, he might say something, he might go on a campaign, including a smart cellular device cannot be in the location. No party shall disclose unredacted sensitive information. Any party can file under seal if you want to talk about some of this stuff. We can modify this. This doesn't waive anything. They can call something non-sensitive and then label it sensitive. No ruling on discovery, and they can challenge specific documents, all signed by the judge, Judge Tanya Chutkan. So it's a split. The government doesn't get everything that they wanted, but they get most of what they wanted. And Trump is going to be largely limited because there is a small batch of non-sensitive stuff that apparently Trump can talk about. All that's going to mean is the government just bundles everything into sensitive, and then the gag order goes into effect. So the big question is going to be, what does Trump do about this? What is his response? Does he keep his foot on the gas pedal, continuing to talk about this and waiting for the government to flip out about it and then demand some sort of repercussions? Probably. It's probably how it's going to go. And so, of course, we're going to continue to cover this one in detail, my friends. Thank you for subscribing and following along wherever it is you're watching this. There will be much more to come. All right. And so let's carry on. We've got some other news to attend to with the Biden cover-up, which was in full effect today. The Biden family cover-up continues. Their criminality knows no bounds. We now have a special counsel that got appointed. Very interesting that the special counsel is the same guy that was the original counsel who wasn't special, but now he's special. So the guy who botched this entire thing, known as David Weiss, who many people think created a corrupt sham plea deal, is now going to be in charge of a more serious investigation or something? That's weird, because they told us this was all done when we were going to have the plea deal that was rejected by Judge Norica in Delaware. But now that they've made this announcement, people are crossing the aisles and joining in unity, coming to the same conclusion that this whole thing might even be illegal. Why? Because David Weiss is the U.S. attorney. And unless David Weiss submitted his resignation, or we have something happening behind the scenes where that happened and then Merrick Garland made an appointment, the special counsel is coming from within the government and is not special at all, is just carrying on his additional previous investigation. So somebody we check in with often here, because he is highly involved in being a commentator on MSNBC and elsewhere when talking about the Trump prosecution, is Andrew Weissman. He posted this. He said, a special counsel is supposed to be outside the government. Hello. Like when they brought Jack Smith in from The Hague. International prosecutor. Oh, look at purple outfit. They brought him in. He wasn't already investigating Donald Trump, and then they appointed him. It's supposed to come from outside the government. So Andrew says, how is this consistent with the special counsel regulations? Weiss already messed up the Hunter plea deal. Green is to effate the well. Now this. It's going, oh gosh. I was saying, yeah. It felt very strange because nobody has any faith in David Weiss. The whistleblowers came out and said that he was corrupted. So now you're just what? Giving him special counsel status so that he is immunized from testifying in Congress, so that they can say, no, we need a couple more years to investigate Hunter, so that it is pushed out beyond the election. Well, you saw that Andrew Weissman referenced this CFR, Code of Federal Regulations, which is not a statute, but it is a regulation that interprets statutes. And it says here, 600.3, an individual named as special counsel shall be a lawyer with a reputation for integrity. Does David Weiss have that reputation after what we saw with this plea deal? Are you serious? The judge said, I've never seen anything like it. The defense and the government agreed there was no precedent for this at all. The U.S. prosecutors, have you ever done anything like this before in any other case in the history of America? No. Oh. Why? Well, because it's Hunter Biden, the president's son. So there is no reputation for integrity, so that's gone. With the appropriate experience to ensure the investigation will be conducted ably, failed on that one, expeditiously, failed, it's been going on for years, and statute of limitations have already expired, and thoroughly. And that these investigative and prosecutorial decisions will be supported by an informed understanding of the law. The special counsel shall be selected from outside the United States government. Special counsels shall agree that their responsibilities as special counsel shall take first precedent. And it's very curious because it says that right there. Shall be selected from outside the government. Not just kind of nestled in this force field of special counsel status to immunize you from having to respond to questions or inquiries. But that is what the law says. And McCarthy, also somebody who is an ex-prosecutor, just like Weissman, is making the same point. We have unity across the legal spheres.
The same question. Now that we have this special counsel probe ongoing, how is that going to intersect or impact the separate but ongoing congressional investigation into Hunter Biden?
Jillian, this is a sham. There is no special counsel investigation, and there is no Biden investigation. The special counsel regulations, what makes a special counsel special is that you're a lawyer who's brought in from outside the United States government, not just outside the Justice Department, outside the government. This U.S. attorney is being appointed, notwithstanding that he is an attorney who's a top official in the Biden Justice Department, and Garland made clear is going to remain a top official in the Biden Justice Department. This is the Biden Justice Department's vehicle for maintaining control of an investigation that they are not pursuing. They've had the case for 5 years. They've never indicted it. They're strategically allowing the statute of limitations to run to the point that the 2014 and 2015 conduct, which covers most of the $21 million that the congressional investigation report showed this week, that's already time barred. And it's time barred because David Weiss himself decided to let those charges die rather than bring an indictment. They're not doing anything that you would do if there was an actual investigation, and he can't be a special counsel because he's inside the government, and the point of having a special counsel is to bring in someone from outside the government who we can trust to do a credible investigation.
They just do whatever they want. The rules say what the rules say. We already know that David Weiss apparently had all the power that he needed. He didn't even really need special counsel status because he could already make decisions as to where to bring the case, whether in D.C. or in California. But now he's got special counsel status and they need more time now. It's all corrupt. It's just, as McCarthy said, it is to control this case, to keep power over it, to stop the inquiries. Oversight Committee, though, is not going to stop the inquiries. Here's what they said. The DOJ is attempting a Biden family cover-up. Moments ago, AG Garland announced he's designating U.S. Attorney for Delaware David Weiss, the same guy who's already been on the case, as special counsel for the Biden criminal investigation. They say this is part of the DOJ's efforts to attempt a Biden family cover-up in light of our committee's mounting evidence of Joe Biden's role in his family's schemes of selling, quote, the brand for millions to foreign nationals. The DOJ's misconduct and politicization in the Biden criminal investigation already allowed the statute of limitations to run with respect to the egregious felonies committed by Hunter. Justice Department officials refused to follow evidence that could have led to Joe Biden, tipped off the Biden transition team and Hunter Biden's lawyers about planned interviews and searches, and attempted to sneakily place Hunter Biden on the path to a sweetheart plea deal. That's David Weiss. That's Merrick Garland. Let's be clear what today's move is really about, says Oversight. The Biden Justice Department is trying to stonewall congressional oversight as we have presented evidence to the American people about the Biden family's corruption. Our committee will continue to follow the Biden's family money trail and interview witnesses to determine whether foreign actors targeted the Bidens, President Biden is compromised and corrupt, and our national security is threatened. We will continue to work with the House committees on Judiciary and Ways and Means to root out misconduct at the DOJ and hold bad actors accountable for weaponizing law enforcement powers. All right, so we'll see. Now, I think it's about time for impeachments to start flying. We'll see what happens. We've got a statement from Donald Trump and his campaign. They said the following: crooked Joe Biden and the entire Biden crime family have been protected by the Justice Department for decades, even though there is overwhelming evidence and credible testimony detailing their wrongdoing of lying to the American people and selling out the country to foreign enemies for the Biden cartel's own financial gain. If this special counsel is truly independent, says Trump, even though he failed to bring proper charges after a 4-year investigation, and he appears to be trying to move the case to a more Democrat-friendly venue, he will quickly conclude that Joe Biden, his troubled son Hunter, and their enablers, including the media, which colluded with the 51 intelligence officials who knowingly misled the public about Hunter's laptop, should face the required consequences. If David Weiss is not a corrupt partisan hack, he'll clearly see how obvious this is. Statement from Trump's spokesman. So kind of digging in there a little bit. And we also have reaction from some other candidates. Now, we've got Nikki Haley, who gets asked about this. And then Mike Pence gives us the lowest common denominator response that you could possibly imagine. Exactly what you'd expect. Here's Nikki.
Pence, Chuck Grassley there at the state fair, reacting to the news. How are you responding?
I don't trust it. I don't think the American people trust it. I don't think that the American people trust the Department of Justice or anything this is going to do. I think that this was meant to be a distraction. It's not a distraction. I think the Bidens are on a sinking ship. And I think this is our opportunity to make sure not only that we get a new president in the White House, but that we go and we clean house in the Department of Justice while we're at it.
All right. So Biden's on a sinking ship, clean house at the DOJ. All right. Sounds, about what you'd expect. Here's one from Mike Pence, though. Now, when we were going through this, our reaction this morning on our members only stream, we watched Merrick Garland come out. It was live in real time. I was basically outraged from the moment he said special counsel for Hunter Biden. And we knew that it was all because this was a cover-up, right? A corrupt envelope that's going to protect this investigation. So we're kind of outraged about it. because we know exactly what they're doing. Now, I don't think it's going to deviate the Republicans from doing what the Republicans are doing, but it is about as corrupt as you could possibly get. Now, this is an interview from the guys over at Ruthless on the Ruthless podcast, which if you're not already checking out, you certainly should. And they were over at the Iowa Fair, and they caught up with Mike Pence, and they had this question.
So, breaking news today. The announcement from Attorney General Merrick Garland that they're going to be having a special prosecutor to investigate the Hunter Biden situation. What's your reaction to that?
Josh, I would just say it's about time.
There you go.
I mean, look, all the allegations that are swirling around the Biden family need to be answered. And it's exactly what a special counsel is for. And I welcome the appointment of a special counsel. I know leaders in Congress called for it. And I heartily support it. Look, the American people have lost confidence in equal treatment under the law in this country.
Yeah, that's true.
And ensuring that we know what happened. During the time that Joe Biden was vice president and his son was on the board of foreign corporations, need to understand what was going on with that. And my hope and my prayer is that this special counsel will put their head down and take some step toward restoring public confidence.
My hope is that the special counsel is going to take some steps to restore confidence in this process. Does he know like what actually happened? Does he know that the special counsel's the same guy that has already rigged this whole thing from the beginning? Did anybody tell him that? Is he paying attention to this? Or was he just like, I know what special counsel means. That's a good thing. Oh, gosh. Okay, so he's very thrilled. He says it's about time. Yeah, well, it's about time. They did it now intentionally. Would have been nice when he started, when Joe Biden came into office. But they kept David Weiss for a reason. That's when the conflict started, when Joe Biden came into office. Not now. Now they appointed it because they got busted, baby. They were going to try to squeeze this whole thing through, grant Hunter Biden total immunity, and sneak this whole thing under the rug. Now it is coming to light.
I was not surprised, but I was not nearly as delighted as I would have been 2 years ago when many of us were calling for this appointment. They waited for the appointment of a special counsel after the statute of limitations has run on critical crimes like the tax violations in 2014, 2015. They waited until Weiss himself was accused of slowing or suppressing efforts. At least the whistleblower suggested that he was not able to pursue cases and didn't aggressively push back on that.
Right, but then Mike Pence is like, no, but we'll give him some more time. It sounds like he's a great potential investigator. I can't wait to get to the bottom of this. Gosh. All right, so that is the cover-up well underway. I'm sure that they're going to now refer everything over to special counsel's office. Hey, Kareem, we got questions about this. Hey, Joe, we got questions about... Oh, no, we can't talk about it. Oh, no, we appointed an independent special counsel. And the special counsel was appointed by Trump, by the way. Get ready for that phrase ad nauseum. Not going to stop because there is a massive cover-up underway. All right. And what are the consequences of this? Now that the Biden crime family has appointed a special counsel to cover up the Hunter investigation, the DOJ has moved to dismiss some of the criminal charges against him out of Delaware. They say, you know, this is a bad venue. We have a problem here, and we might want to get rid of these charges, and we'll just kind of hold on to them in our back pocket. We promise we're going to refile them somewhere else, and then we'll deal with it later. But we also appointed a special counsel, so what's probably going to happen is we'll just give that over to them, and then they'll put it in their back pocket, and then they can hang on to it for however long it takes, and then maybe we'll postpone it till after the election then. But this is what they submitted. They want the cases and the charges to go away, and it's almost never that they just dismiss everything and we all just go, oh, look, corruption. It's always dragged out over years. It's always one charge goes away, then another charge goes away a couple of years later. Then we get an appeal on the other charges, and lo and behold, Bill Cosby's free. And it's going to be the same situation here. They're already executing this game plan. That's why we have the 2014, 2015 charges that have expired under the statute of limitations. So delay, 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 deny, deny, deny. CBS is hearing the same Catherine Herridge reporting.
A former federal prosecutor I spoke to just before this event said to me the appointment of a special counsel would have the effect of delaying a resolution on the Hunter Biden matter, in his opinion. And it would certainly delay any anticipated testimony from the U.S. attorney in Delaware to Republicans on Capitol Hill who have been seeking that testimony for several months. So it's an extraordinary development considering where the two parties were 2 weeks ago to wrap up this years-long case, now to the appointment of a special counsel that will have these broad authorities, most importantly, to continue this ongoing investigation, Margaret.
Just keep it going.
Catherine, and it really is interesting given that it was June 7th, the U.S. attorney said he had ultimate authority, and then again had said that, to Congress that he felt he had that, and now this Tuesday says, I need some independence to go further into this investigation.
What a joke. So that's what Catherine Herridge says. Now, this is the ultimate motion to dismiss that got filed. And so let's run through this one. This is coming out of the District of Delaware. Remember, we just were in Judge Norika's courtroom, and she got this little scam plea deal that was delivered to her by the Department of Justice that's supposed to be prosecuting people, not immunizing them. But now, same day that we get the special counsel so-called announcement drop, they submit this motion to dismiss. See that right there? The United States motion to voluntarily dismiss. Oh, the criminal tax information. Now they say without prejudice, meaning they can refile this, and they've got a good reason, they say, to dismiss this. But we're asking the question is, are they going to refile it? Or is this just one count that now gets tucked over with the special counsel's office? They just needed to get it out of this court, and they had an excuse to do it. You see 5 pages coming out of Delaware, United States of America versus Robert Hunter Biden, if you believe that. It says the United States, we now move to voluntarily dismiss the information without prejudice so that we can bring the tax charge in a district where the venue lies. Remember, we've got to bring the criminal charges where they occurred, which is why we have such a big problem with what Jack Smith has done, using information that he gets from D.C. to prosecute a crime that he alleged occurred in Florida. It's a problem. And so here, it's kind of the same thing. They're saying on June 2023, the U.S. filed a criminal information charging Hunty with 2 crimes. But venue for these offenses don't lie in Delaware, which is also interesting. So why did we bring it here in the first place? Because you thought the judge was going to bundle all of this up in one global resolution. So now that didn't happen, they've got to unring this bell. Rather, venue for these offenses and other related tax offenses lie either in California, or District of Columbia, which is allegedly where David Weiss went to go bring the charges and was rejected. So now they have to unring this bell. The information was filed in this district because the parties had previously agreed that Hunter would waive the challenge to venue and plead guilty here under their sham deal. However, during the hearing that the court had on this matter, Hunter pled not guilty. Since that time, the parties have engaged in a further plea negotiations to see if we can solve this thing, but we're at an impasse. The government now believes that the case will not resolve short of a trial. Again, we'll see. Meaning they're not going to take a plea on this, but they're going to kick it over to the special counsel's office for Lord knows how long. They say in criminal cases, proper venue is an important constitutional safeguard, no doubt. The proper place of colonial trials was so important that the framers, that they listed it as a grievance in the Declaration of Independence and imposed a venue requirement in 2 separate parts of the Constitution, Article 3 and the 6th Amendment. It's like a jury of your peers, you know. You don't want to be charged with a crime, shipped back to England and tried there. Article 3 provides that the trial of all crimes shall be held in states where the crimes shall have been committed. 6th Amendment provides the right to an impartial jury in the state where the crime was committed. Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure says the same thing. And so now, because we don't have a scam deal, we've got to wring this thing out of this court. They go through all of the case law. They say, Your Honor, We're filing a motion to dismiss. Now, the judge could ultimately deny this. Okay, the judge could say, I think you're doing something scammy, or I think you're not actually going to refile this, or I think I've got questions about who's responsible for this decision now. The judge could say, well, you say you're going to refile it, but who's responsible for that? I mean, you said you were in charge here, and now we've got special counsel appointed. Is it the same office or what? So they're saying, Judge, you have to presume that there's good faith here, that we're not doing something bad. They say that Hunter could rebut this presumption, which, you know, maybe he would. I don't think he's going to make a motion on this. But they say this is being made in good faith. We're not trying to change venue to California, which would be better for Hunter. We're not trying to change venue to D.C., where he's going to get a D.C. jury, 92% Democrat. No, it's in good faith. It's in the public interest, which are clearly articulated. Now, when the parties were proceeding to a negotiated plea deal, we agreed on this district, and the only reason we were going to do it here because Hunter waived the challenge to the venue. He was going to say, I'm not challenging this. I'm taking a plea deal. But he did not plead guilty, and therefore he did not waive venue. And so we are now at an impasse. Trial is in order since we're not going to have a plea deal, and this cannot take place in Delaware if there is a trial. This cannot take place because venue does not lie here, which is accurate, right? I think this is a true legal statement. I don't have any problems with that as a legal issue. My question, though, is with the DOJ. What is the DOJ going to do with it now that it's been dismissed? They say that if this does go to trial, Hunter could take advantage of this. Hunter could file a motion to dismiss citing improper venue. If he did, the government would consent. We would agree there is no venue. But even if he did not immediately move now, at trial, he could assert no venue, right? And I've won trials on this, by the way, traffic ticket type trials. If you're in the wrong court or if you're even in the right court and the officer doesn't say that you're in the right jurisdiction, you might be able to win on a motion to dismiss, not legal advice, but on a traffic ticket. Sometimes cops will miss venue because it's something that's easy to miss. So at trial, if they fail to prove venue, they're out of compliance of the Constitution. They almost always get it. They say something like in the jurisdiction of this court for those types of cases. But they could make that claim at trial and Hunter would be right, and then the case would have to be dismissed. So they say this defense is being built into the case right now, and it would render a trial a farce. So the court should grant our motion to dismiss, let us bring charges in another district where he can be properly tried. I think the judge will grant it, but I'm curious if she has any questions. They say even if Hunter were to offer to waive any challenge to venue now, the court should still grant the motion. The government, in its exercise of prosecutorial discretion, is considering what tax charges to bring in another district and may elect to bring the same charges here or in a different one. And so now the waiver is not knowing the rules have changed because Hunter is unaware of what charges he would be waiving venue to. The United States asked for Hunter's position, and they responded and asked for an extension of time, but the government declined. They say, nope, no more time. As of the time of this filing, we don't have Hunter's position on this, which is probably intentional. They don't want to take a position. Now that the parties are at an impasse, a trial is in order, which is the only other option. If you don't have a plea deal, you go to trial unless the government dismisses or unless you win a motion to dismiss. You can have pretrial litigation that results in a dismissal, but it's basically one or the other. If the government's not voluntarily dismissing and you're not winning a motion to dismiss, we're going to trial. Now, I doubt this because we now have a special counsel who's at play. Venue must be proper for each count of the indictment. The government makes the burden. So in light of that requirement, the government moves to dismiss this information so that we can just take those tax charges and bring them elsewhere. Signed by Leo Weiss, the same guy who was trying to scam through the plea deal. Standing in court saying, nope, no precedent. No, I have no idea where this came from. Will you take it, Judge? You sure? So they file a motion to dismiss. Maybe they turn around and file the tax charges in D.C. We pick a new case right back up, or in California. But we'll see. But Lindsey Graham says, they're not off the hook, right? Whatever they're doing, all these shenanigans, they're going to see exactly through it and get to the bottom of it.
United States senators and House members. So I think they're trying to shut down the congressional investigation. To my House colleagues, you've done a wonderful job. I've tried to be helpful. We're not going to let this go. Mr. Weiss, you're not off the hook here. This Friday afternoon gambit is not going to work. We're going to continue to ask questions about the biggest sweetheart deal in the history of America.
And so Lindsey Graham sending some love over from the Senate, and the DOJ dismisses the Hunter tax crimes. We'll see if they refile them and if we get any more information on the special counsel and what parties are involved in the various aspects of this new charge, wherever it happens to emerge. And so we will continue to cover, my friends. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking this video, wherever it is you're watching it, as we continue to cover. All right, my friends. That is it for us on this lovely Friday. We covered some good ground. We know what the DOJ is doing. We certainly know that the cover-up is underway from the Biden crime family, and we've got some good reaction to that from Trump and others. We also saw that there is a split on the J6 protective order for Donald Trump, and we'll see what he does in response to this. I mean, I think this is probably just the opening salvo on all of this. And so now, my friends, let's see what you have to say, courtesy of our friends over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, our members-only site, our friends on YouTube, our friends on Rumble, all across the fruited plain. One reminder that we have our brand new website that we're working on building rapidly as we speak, robertgovea.com. You can go here, enter into dark mode, sign up to get access to the mind map, everything that we just walked through. There's a video tutorial that I created, how to use the mind map. You can catch the latest reports by clicking this reports tab up here. Our store is going to be up here soon. We're working hard building this out, and I appreciate everybody's feedback on what we're doing here. But now, let's hear from you, and let's see what you have to say about this. Over from our friends on Locals, we got Carrie's here. What's up, Carrie? Carrie says, we're here. We're here. We're getting started. It's a beautiful Friday. We had a great members-only stream this morning for our friends on YouTube and Locals. And I'm glad that you joined us, Carrie. Very glad that you were here with us. We had another one from Vianticus. It says, Rob, when I call your name, please respond with, here I am, rock you like a hurricane. Here I am, rock you like a hurricane. From Vianticus. Happy Cash Friday, everybody. Indeed. Thank you, V. Thanks for the love. Thanks for sending the tip in. We got Tina Bremer says, hey, Tina, 5 membos. Gifted in What About Me, Grant R, Valentina T, Rox in X2, and Nova, all coming in courtesy of Tina. Thank you, Tina. Tina B in the house. And so that means, my friends, tomorrow we'll have a very fun members-only morning live stream for our members. And Patrick Parker's bringing in 5 new people, too. Woo! Thank you, Patrick. We got Captain Flatastic. In God We Trust. We got Diane H. We got Son of Liberty. And we got Stephen K. here in the house on YouTube. And thank you, Patrick. So Patrick's inviting 5 people and Tina's inviting 5 people. And I'm laughing because of this one, Broccoli Rob in his field of memes. That's kind of how I feel sometimes. And if you eat enough broccoli, that might happen to you, and you should, because broccoli is delicious. One day, V, one day, that's going to be my life. I'm going to have a homestead in a field of memes full of field of greens. We've got Jameson says, it would be interesting if MAGA rallied to start demanding that their House reps shut down the government as a way of showing our distaste for D.C. Yeah, I'd be curious what kind of leverage the Republicans could put upon the government. I'm not real sure what they would do, but it would be very curious. We got John McGarvey in the house. Thank you, John, bringing in 5 new membos as well. Tomorrow's going to be a lot of fun. We've got Queen B, we got Connor B, we got One Voice, we got Arnett's coming in, and CS 101, all joining courtesy of John McGarvey in the house. And don't forget to join us, our YouTube members, on Telegram. Go to the community tab on YouTube, get the Telegram link so you can join us for our after party, which is where we're going to go right after here. We got we got the GIF. Don't forget to smash that like button, by the way, wherever you're watching this. Thank you for the reminder on that one. We got Viantica says, anyone who doesn't dono to Rob's show today is a heathen that eats pineapple on pizza, pronounces Giffy, Gif the wrong way, and keeps the toilet paper hanging on the backside instead of the front side, which might be, the toilet paper thing might be, well, nothing is more offensive than pineapple on pizza. Toilet paper is not even close, but it's also on the list. All right, thank you, V. Very good one. I appreciate that. He's right about all that. Debbie's here, says that's too funny. Thank you, Debbie. I appreciate the tip. Oh, John says, oh, God, not on my pizza. From John McGarvey. Oh, God, not on my pizza. We've got a couple here from John. John says, and it is a GIF. And I don't understand the TP reference, says John. Well, it's, yeah, here's the thing. This is how it works. I think V pulled that up for us. So we have a nice conversation here. This is accurate. I mean, I think this is accurate. And that's just sheer laziness. I mean, what are you doing? But we've all been there, I think. We've all done that. We all have to admit it. We've all done it. Yeah, this is a patent, I think. All right. We got this one from Tanya. It says, I'm going to pass on the pizza too. With the pineapples. No pizza on pineapples for you. We got John McGarvey says, keep up, Zach. I think we're having a conversation in the tips on locals, which I'm fine with. Debbie says, good one, V. I was trying to figure out explaining, and yours is perfect. So I think we're chatting in currency, which is great. I mean, I'm down with it. We've got Rocky Water. Is there a way to just make this for everything, for all YouTube or something? Just kidding. Just kidding. All right. We got Rocky Water says, Rob, missed the past few. Glad to catch the live again. We're glad you're back, Rocky. We missed you. A few comments. Another great show. Thanks as always. Thank you. 2, the executive branch is political. It's how they resolve internal differences. Deference must be given to Trump resolving this politically. Vientikis is extorting the chat room also. That's not at my direction. We have no deal going on or nothing like that. Thank you, V. Thank you, V. Keep it up. Yeah, let me know. Send me the final numbers. Yeah, send me the final. Actually, that could be a conspiracy. FBI, we're just joking. All right. There's no conspiracy happening here. Swear. All right. Good to see you, Rocky. We had another one from John McGarvey says, I feel the need to point out that Pepsi is the, gosh. He says, Pepsi is the nectar of the gods and Coca-Cola isn't even worthy of washing Chris Christie's feet. Oh, gosh. I disagree with this statement. I disavow this statement. I do not endorse that statement at all. Nothing can work on Chris Christie's feet. Nothing. Not going to happen. We got Bend Over says, real is rare. Bend Over invited 5 new members. Man, tomorrow is going to just be a ton of fun. Our members only chat. We got Bend Overs bringing in Real is Rare. We got Linda H. We got 24/7 Live AZ Skies. We got Holly P. and Gary coming in courtesy of Bend Over. Bend Over, thank you for inviting 5 new members in. We got Ian says, this whole Trump judge thing stinks of DC. Surely it has to be moved. Crazy to pretend it's fair there. It is, right? And even the demographics are brutal. It's like 92% Democrat. And we saw this same thing play out, Ian, in the Michael Sussman trial, where the jurors were like, well, this is all just a bunch of nothing because Trump was the victim. They didn't care. They didn't care at all. Hey, Rachel says, the judge is absolutely bat-s crazy, from Rachel in the house. Well, it's going to be an interesting one. She's just getting warmed up. There's no doubt about it. And the tweet comment, I was not a fan of that. And everything is going to be labeled now as sensitive material, which means our access to stuff is going to be limited and curtailed, and that's irritating. Chrissy says, I thought this judge was going to be a lot worse. If this motion was brought before the New York judge, it would have been granted in its entirety with no questions asked. It's hard to read her. She's got a lot of scrutiny, Chrissy. I noticed that too. I think she did actually push, she like technically split it a little bit, but John Laura was not happy with the outcome today. He's not happy about it. And the judge, I think, feigned a little bit of normality, some apolitical conversation when she was questioning Thomas Windham, but I didn't buy it. I mean, I think that she's being clever here If she was too hard against Trump, it would have given them a big opportunity to appeal. She's kind of splitting it so that, in my opinion, she's also kind of kicking this down the road. This is not going to resolve all of the issues. It's going to resolve some of them. I imagine there will be another issue that pops up, and then we'll see what she does. But basically, the government got what they wanted. Anything that they designated sensitive is going to be protected. And even anything that they didn't designate sensitive, they have the ability to now designate sensitive and now protect it. So that's just, it's going to get worse. But you're right. Like if this was in front of Judge Kaplan out of SDNY, probably would have locked Trump up already for the tweets. Nuts. We got Jennifer Newman's here. Thank you, Jennifer, with a nice, beautiful, I think, dance, getting the groove on. I appreciate that. Thank you for the nice tip. Sending that one in. Jennifer Newman in the house. We got T. Lewis is over on Locals. What's up, T. Lewis? Welcome aboard on Locals. Says all items that Trump won't be allowed to discuss will be leaked to the public through CNN, and Trump will be accused of being the source. Then CNN will confirm he is the leak. Ooh, that's a spicy take on that one. I mean, could you imagine? What I think, so that would be amazing if that happened. I think that it's a possibility. I think the likelier possibility is Trump posts something that they say came from Discovery, and that's a problem. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Thanks for the comment, T. Lewis, on Locals. We got Bag of Bolts says, does all the information Trump can't reproduce come on a hard drive? How is he supposed to look at the information without a computer? Things can happen to hard drives to corrupt them. Well, and he's also got 11.6 million. I'm sure he'll have a device or something to look at these things on. But I think Trump is a paper guy, actually. So I can't imagine they're going to print out 11 million pages of documents. They'll probably have a disconnected hard drive, and then his lawyers will check his notes before he leaves. Thanks, Bag of Bolts. Tree Valen is here. Says, hi, Rob. Garland, Supreme Court. Garland, SC is Weasel. Weasel guarding the henhouse. He is. He just comes out, reads the statements as they need to be read to continue to protect the Biden crime family. We got Kelly's here. Welcome, Kelly, as a supporter. We'll see you tomorrow for our morning members only morning stream, baby. We have this one from Patrick Parker. Says, it's times like this that I wish we can overcome the power of the tyrannical government and all of its tyranny for peace and justice to be equally shared. That's a beautiful comment, Patrick. Wouldn't it be nice if we all could just exist in a world in a state of freedom and love and harmony? I would be appreciative of that. I think we can get closer to that than we're at currently. And I think our biggest problem, for most of us, is the federal government. Yes, they're not coming and kicking our doors in, but they are stealing from our bank accounts through inflation and through endless wars and through limiting our speech. They're crapping all over our civil liberties. It is tyrannical. Here we are. Good to see you, Patrick. We got Salty says, Turley likes the Constitution just fine, but he also likes cocktail hour in D.C. I'm sure that is true. We got Cfro BW says, so what if the government leaks some information to the press? Can Trump talk about that, or will they try to go after him for that? Well, there's been no requests or protective orders to stop the government from leaking. They're already not supposed to leak. But we know that the New York Times, Washington Post, they continue to get them. And so they can leak and they can craft their narrative, but Trump can't respond and craft a responsive narrative? That doesn't seem very fair. Thank you, Cfro. We've got Salty Sarge. Says the DOJ, FBI, and CIA have been playing three-card Monte for the last 7 years, before, during, and after Trump. Right, ever since he walked down the escalator, since the phone call. And now they're saying that Trump also, as part of the sensitive information protective order limitation, can't talk about any of that other info. FBI, CIA, Homeland Security, Capitol Hill Police, all of the other entities related to January 6th, which is the subject of the charge. Jameson says, is there any more of a political question than who is to be the next president? Can the courts hear political questions? No, not generally, Jameson. It is a pretty big political question, and the judge is saying we're not talking about political questions. And this is a judicial criminal question, and she'll leave all of those out to the political process. But they are pretty commingled here because the political process implicates the corrupt DOJ, which is bringing this charge. We got Randy's here over on Locals. Thank you, Randy. Welcome, and good to see your name in the chat. Says Pence knows, probably working with Pelosi, such a rhino. Great job as always, Rob. Thank you. Thank you, Randy. Yeah, Mike Pence, man, you know, like I used to not really have a position on him, but he has come out with some really, really bad takes lately, really bad. And that one today, oh, it's great. What do you think of Special Counsel? It's great. Have you even thought about this? Like, have you thought it through? Do you know who the Special Counsel is there, Mike? Dolphin fan is the man, bringing in 5 new members. Thank you, Dolphin. We've got Audi Joe. We got Jonathan C. We've got James H. in the house. We've got Patriot coming in. We've got Rebecca J. here. Welcome aboard. We're super happy to have everybody. And thank you, Dolphin fan, for bringing in 5 new members. We're going to have, tomorrow's going to be a lot of fun. Members only morning stream on Saturday, baby. Salty Sarge says, hey, Rob, congratulations on the merch shop. P.S. There better be some Widow's Peak hair care products in there, you know? Something for the Dapper Dan. Great show as always. Salty's calling out my Widow's Peak in my head, you know, this thing I've got here. Some people's hairline, you know, it doesn't have that. Some people's hairline is just kind of like flat, right? Like right across. But man, I got a Widow's Peak indeed. No doubt about that. So Widow's Peak hair care product. Is there anything like that? 66 Anton says, no heathen here. No, sir, not on Locals. Odessia says, thank you, Rob. I need a lawyer to watch the news more than ever. Well, that's what we're doing here, Odessia. We're not stopping. We're just warming up. Thank you for being here and loving us up. We got Facts Matter says, ketchup on hot dogs is close second. This is going to cause a ruckus, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Ketchup on hot dogs? I put ketchup on my hot dogs. See what you think about that, Facts Matter. We're going to have to probably arm wrestle or something. FMF says, Rob, I just name dropped you just now talking with Viva on the Dr. Drew show. Yeah, nothing but joy talking about you. Oh, that's awesome. So that's cool. Well, thanks for doing that, FMF. So Viva's amazing. He was on with Dr. Drew. Dr. Drew's great. So that's super cool that they're out having conversations. Well, I appreciate that. That's a real cool. Thanks for plugging us over there. I'm banned from Chicago. Oh, I do it. All right. We got FMF Doc. We have First Amendment says, hey, Rob and watchers, I received some grave news from my doctor today. I hurt my back at work 4 weeks ago. Today, I was told I'm healthy enough to go back to work. Oh, I see what's happening here. I was going to say, that's great news. Your back's great, but it's grave. You got to go back to work. I get it now. So it's like, congratulations, but I'm sorry. Congratulations, your back feels better, but we're right back to work. So thanks for that one. First Amendment, congratulations, and sorry to hear that. We have another one from a bad poet. Says, happy Friday. Better if Weiss gets thrown in jail by Monday. Well, yeah, they'd have to indict him for some crime. And I don't think that they're going to do that by Monday, but it's a nice thought. What About Me says, Rob, your courtroom shows are your best in my opinion. Great. Thanks. Thanks. What About Me? The ones where I think you're talking about the ones where we read through the transcripts and some of the stuff. They're fun to read. They're fun. I like to kind of get into it a little bit, you know. We got this one from Rocky Water. Says, Trump, any Republican candidate has to start going hard at the judicial branch. This isn't all about the DOJ. I think Trump mentioned dissolving the D.C. circuit. Yes, I concur. The swamp cannot judge the swamp. I don't know if Trump mentioned D.C., but I know it has been brought up. And we actually talked about this morning, Rocky, was, I think you missed it, but about Newt Gingrich brought this up. So if I'm repeating myself, maybe you've already heard it, but Newt Gingrich talked about this when he was running, I think in 2012, saying they should dissolve the Ninth Circuit, which I think's, you know, fine. Congress can set the jurisdiction of the courts. So just get rid of DC. But Trump might, okay, like if the judicial branch, if they come after him in this political campaign, he might start swinging back. And although he's not in the executive branch at the moment, if he wins the executive branch, right, that is a separation of powers argument. And I think he should be allowed to make those in the middle of a campaign. John McGarvey says, Rob, I took a poll on YouTube and everyone here agrees that Pepsi is the best. Is that true, John? We're gonna have to do an official poll on that one. Did these line up politically, Coke and Pepsi? Do they line up politically? Do they align with the colors politically? It's going to be curious. It's actually an interesting question. Now I'm curious about it. All right. Well, thanks, John, for that. YouTube, that's what he says. I don't know if that's true or not, but take it up with John. We got Starlight says, hey, Starlight, first super chat. Thank you, Starlight. Thanks for being here. Very generous dono. Looks like a great profile pic with the American flag in the background. Bursting for freedom. And another very nice one. Thank you from this one, from B-Man. Another one from B-Man. First chat from B-Man. Thank you, B-Man. B-Man, Starlight, being very generous here. No questions, but I very much appreciate your support. It does mean a lot. I'm glad you joined us. We had this one from Starlight. Also became a supporter as a member. Woo! Amazing. So Starlight, we'll see you tomorrow in the morning for our members-only stream. We've got Jack Mac number 13 coming in the house. Says, how can a person be guaranteed a fair trial when it is widely known that the judge has a conflict of interest? Are we just stuck with this judge if she chooses not to recuse herself? So if she chooses not to recuse herself and the lawyers don't file anything, my understanding is that the Trump defense team has already indicated they were going to file a motion for a recusal or a motion for a new judge, basically conflicting her off. And the parties can make that claim. They just have to come up with a good basis for it. So if Trump's, and I'm pretty sure we heard John Laurel make that claim, saying that they were going to do that. And I think there's been some other digging on this, that she's been involved in other J6 cases where she's made statements about Donald Trump and basically in sentencings and things said that Trump is guilty. Trump's responsible for this. And so if she's got conflicted statements in those other J6 prosecutions, maybe they'll be able to dig those out to show that she is really not fair and impartial, or should not be considered fair and impartial in this case. So if she doesn't recuse herself, the lawyers can raise the issue, but it's up to them. And if they don't do it and she doesn't do it, then yeah, we're stuck. Unfortunately. We'll see what happens. We're still very early in this. And I know it feels like this has been going on for a long time, because it actually has. But the indictment just came out in August, and August, 1st, I think, was this latest indictment. It feels like it was like 5 months ago, but I know. But we're just about to get discovery and grand jury transcripts and stuff. So the grand jury transcripts are super important in a criminal case, because it's the evidence that they presented to bring the charges. And so the defense is going to have a tough time building a defense without those. And they're now going to get those because the protective order has been entered. Jameson says, anything I email, feel free to use. Thank you, Jameson. Jameson sends over some really good stuff. And yeah, we may use that. Or I was thinking about maybe guest posts on the article on our website. We have one guest post. We can maybe do some more guest posts. We got A Bad Poet says, what's taxpayer price tag for 11.6 million docs? Well, I think when I get court transcripts, it's $1.20 a page. So do the math on that. 15 million. We have this one from First Amendment says, I always knew the Second Amendment was under attack. Never thought freedom of speech would be the first to go. Yeah, they really came hard on that. COVID pivoted everything. Well, COVID and Trump. COVID and Trump was the justification to change the entire structure of the country. We had this one, a good one, First Amendment. Raymond Loera says, could a government prosecutor ask for Trump to take down specific posts from his social media because it's labeled sensitive in the discovery files? Definitely. Yeah, and they would ask the judge to sanction him, sanction the defense. They could ask the judge to hold him in custody, to ban him from social media, to stop him from using a cell phone, to stop him from leaving the residence. Like, they could ask for all sorts of conditions to order compliance, and the judge could issue the order to do it. Woodchip says, Trump gets nothing, but the prosecution gets everything. Can't anything be done about this? Also, what about SCOTUS? Didn't Trump ask for an emergency hearing? I don't think Trump has asked for an emergency hearing yet. He has in many other instances, but not in these prosecutions. But certainly, right, there are traditionally in criminal cases, you wait for a final order. But there are opportunities where you can special action or do an interlocutory appeal in certain situations, and maybe appeal to the Court of Appeals and then up to the Supreme Court. But you could also, you could also have situations where Trump doesn't even file something with the Supreme Court. I'm thinking about like attorneys general filing something, joining together, kind of like what they did in 2020 for the election. Supreme Court might reject that, but there could be a lot of different avenues that the Supreme Court gets involved that could be gamed out. A bad poet says, a website that counts taxpayer money spent on Trump. That's a good idea. It's a lot. It's a lot of money. Jack Smith's alone's like $1 million a month, I think, is what his burn rate is. Jameson says, tip for better government: criminal prosecutors criminally liable for misconduct. Accountability is the key. Jameson says, a tip for better government: criminal prosecutors being criminally liable for misconduct. Accountability is key. Yeah, almost never happens. They just get away with basically anything, including criminal prosecutions against their political opponents, where they're threatening lawyers with not getting judgeships if their clients don't flip. NQS said, whoa, who said no heathens? I'm a heathen here. Worship the North gods and goddesses. Well, is that what a heathen is? I thought of heathen as a little different. The Norse gods are pretty cool. That's fair. We've got Jameson says, 2 lawyers, LOL, but Rob is right. Yeah, Jameson, I know you're a lawyer. I think you were just setting me up on that question. You knew the answer. You were just setting me up so I could home run it. We got Rachel says, I love it when you read between the lines of the transcripts and insert your own interpretations of the narrative. That's from Rachel. And thank you for that feedback, Rachel. I've had a couple other people mention they don't like that. I've had other people say, can you just read the transcript verbatim and not interrupt it and just read it? And I said, that's probably not going to work out here. But thanks for the suggestion. So no, I couldn't do that. I'd be bored out of my mind. And so would you. But Rachel, thank you for that. I appreciate that feedback. Salty says, Rob, I kid to be kind. All the watchers should keep the faith. No doubt. All hear Samuel L. Jackson's Ezekiel, 25:17. The actor? I haven't heard that one. Samuel L. Jackson's Ezekiel. I've not heard of that one, but thank you, Salty, for that one. Igor, first super chat. Thank you, Igor. Says the accused should be able to choose a court and the jury in the zip code of their choice. Example, President Trump charged in D.C. He can choose a court, jury, and judge in a red area or state. That would be, talk about forum shopping. That's an interesting idea. Or like you flip a coin, or the prosecutors get to pick. You flip a coin and you get like home field advantage, who kicks or who receives. Or just trial by combat, would be a fun one too. I think this is an interesting idea. I mean, if you wanted to, I think, Igor, like in seriousness, if you wanted to say it was a jury of your peers, couldn't you get to pick the jury who your peers are? I think my peers are right in my hometown. Interesting comment. Thank you, Igor. Another one from Vientikis says, hot dogs are fake sausages, so I'm fine with ketchup on them. Yeah, well, you're probably going to be banned from Chicago along with me. That's all right. Salty says, Binger and Lunchbox, they get away with it. They do. They, prosecutorial misconducts and all sorts, they never get in trouble. They just do whatever they want. Typical prosecutors. Vientikis says, next step is transcripts with hand puppets. Oh, yeah. Do little conversations. No. Objection. Overruled. Sit down. Donald Trump's an insurrectionist. And all this stuff. I like it. We got another one from Raymond. Thank you, Raymond. Says, I meant on posts that are already online. Thank you. And I've got to figure out what the segue was there. and I'm having a hard time finding that one. But all right, I'll take a look at it. Thank you, Raymond. I'll take a look. We got this one from T. Lewis says, hey, Rob, have you ever seen the video of Oliver Anthony singing Rich Men North of Richmond? It's an amazing song and it's gone viral. I have listened to it about 15 times last night. I just put it on repeat. I was like, man, this dude is so talented. And I poked around, actually found him on YouTube. I listened to a couple other songs as well. It's a great song, man. Great voice. I absolutely love it. I love that kind of music. And I don't actually like a lot of music with vocals in it. In fact, I don't like most vocals in music. But I liked that song a lot. And it's interesting. And the lyrics are interesting. The music is really excellent. So if you haven't listened to it, I'd encourage it. We got this one from SQ Quinn. Thank you, SQ Quinn. S. Quinn in the house. Says, thank you for explaining things so well. Otherwise, I'd be lost. Have a great weekend. You do the same, Quinn. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining along as we go through it. We're all exploring these things together. We're all unpacking it together. There's going to be a lot more to go. And thanks for being over there on Rumble and supporting us there. We had this one from Music Micro Gaming Mix. Thank you, Music Micro. Sending in a nice dono. I appreciate that. And I love the support. And this one from Debbie Marie over on Locals says, glad you're not going to change reading in your voice. Your interpretation often gives a chance to explain. Love it. Thanks for another great show. Loved G's Mine with smoke blowing out of your ears. Oh, G-Gums with smoke blowing out of your ears after the special counsel announcement. That's funny. Yeah, we have a good, G-Gum made a good meme with my ears blowing out of smoke. And that's kind of how I felt after the special counsel announcement this morning. Yeah, look, I understand both parts of reading it, different ways. And I try to stay accurate to the script, but I also try to liven it up a little bit. So we try to find the balance, and I can appreciate both sides of it. But I do appreciate the feedback, Debbie. We got Jameson says, Coke is woke, so there you go. And then Taylor says, please keep reading ad lib the transcript. You are amazing. Well, thank you, Art Taylor. We'll probably keep, I try to join in and out, and it's dynamic. It's always changing, but I appreciate that. And I always appreciate the feedback because, this is a work in progress. We're all learning as we go. But okay, thank you so much for all of that very generous support from our friends on YouTube, our friends on Locals, our Rumble friends. Very generous and very, very appreciated. Let's say hello to our friends on X before we go over to our members only after party. And so our YouTube friends, join us on Telegram. Go over to the community tab section, grab the Telegram link, because as soon as we're done here, that's where we'll be. We've got 6 people on Twitter. X. I'm going to get banned. Elon's going to ban me again. All right. Actually, I've never been banned on Twitter, only on the other ones. This one from C-SPAN says, great show as usual. I've been slowly gathering the pieces to create videos. I've got my first one. It's pretty basic, but I was so mad that C-SPAN did not even bother to broadcast this hearing. This channel is underway. Sweet. All right. So my friends, go over to our Twitter page. The C-SPAN Review does good work. The C-SPAN Review, remember, did the bingo cards for us. And so they've got a new YouTube channel over there, and looks like they're doing some good work. So go on over there, give them a follow, check out their channel. C-SPAN sent over the statute. Thank you for that. We got Vientikis says, Widow's Peak were always pointed to as signs of intelligence. And I'm not just saying that because I got one myself. I agree. I heard that too, V. It's true. I think it adds like 25 IQ points. V says, anyone else catching the judge's statement? I've represented a lot of criminals. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me. I've represented a lot of criminals. James Pepper says, what if Biden in a debate reveals witness testimony? Will he be found in contempt? No, the protective order doesn't apply to him, or the Washington Post, or the New York Times. Fred says, all of this is just so filthy. It's literally nauseating, or is it just me? It makes me sick to my stomach. Even Johnny threw up. You know Johnny. Johnny can eat anything. So if Johnny's upset about it, we know it's a problem. TJ King said, last week the prosecutors are whining to Judge Norica. We worked so hard on this plea deal, please. Today, just kidding. Never mind. We need special counsel now. Pumpkin Marie says, I'm one of 6. I feel very special and very sad. So many people are missing out. Well, thanks, Pumpkin Marie. I'm sad too. Where are all of our Twitter friends? Pumpkin Marie says, yay, caught you live finally. When will corruption get bad enough to wake up the normies? What will it take? It's getting beyond ridiculous. It's a good question, and I think it's slowly starting. I mean, people, I think, are starting to recognize the government is incompetent, and surprisingly, we're seeing it emerge in immigration in different cities and different places. And I think once people start to recognize that all of the promises they were promised fail, they'll start looking around a little bit more. Who knows what it's going to take to nudge somebody on that first. It's like dominoes. What's the first domino that goes for somebody? And then they, lo and behold, they wake up and then they think everything the government says is a lie. It usually doesn't start that way. It starts small. Oh, they lied to us about those 15 days. Oh, they lied to us about the mandates and about what that thing was going to do to us. Oh, and then they lied about that. They told us that Afghanistan was great. It wasn't. They told us this. They told us that immigration was okay. They told us that inflation was going down. Now my bank account's empty. Right? And then it's a slow chipping away. And then people start to wake up is the hope. But great comments, my friends, over on the X. And that is where we are going to wrap it up on the day. We are going over to our members only after party at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, which is where we have our members only streams. We also have our YouTube friends joining us on Telegram, and we'll be back tomorrow for our members only Saturday show. Don't forget to grab your Field of Greens, courtesy of our friends at fieldofgreens.com, and you can save 15% when you check out. And there's a bunch of good stuff over there, and the vegetables want to be eaten, so I encourage you to go over there. Shout out to our mods and meme smiths who mod down the fort for us and keep things nice and orderly. We got the best mods in the house. Big thanks go out to Vienticus Prime, K-Bean, we got Just Cause, Playin' Hooky, Ronnie Cole, we got Zulu, Beyond Geo, we got Zach Nichols, John Allen, Janek, Dog Digger, Donut Mind Me, and John McGarvey, all modding down the fort for us. We have Sleepy Dog Lee, our friend Geegum Geegum, and Nathan NA10 as our incredible meme smiths. And that, my friends, is it for us on the day. We got Music Micro Gaming Mix, who is sending in some very nice donos at the end of the show. 4 of them, one at a time. Music Micro Gaming Mix. 1, 2, 3, and 4, baby. Boom. Thank you, Music Micro Gaming Mix in the house. Thanks for sending those in as we wrap up the show. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. Members, stick around. We'll hang out for a bit longer and debrief. We'll also be back, members, tomorrow morning, Saturday. We'll be a little earlier tomorrow than usual because I've got actually a full day tomorrow. It's going to be a wild day. I'll tell you about it. But that, my friends, is it for us here on this week. And boy, oh boy, it was a busy week. We covered a lot of stuff, and I think we're just getting started. It's only going to escalate from here. And we're grateful that you join us as we continue to explore, unpack, and uncover all of this madness out there. But it is now the weekend, and it's always a good time for us to unplug, disconnect a little bit, recharge our energy battery cells. A lot of this stuff can be toxic and depressing and overwhelming, and so we want to rejuvenate. Get out there, get some sunshine, get some fresh air, get some movement in our bodies, eat some good food, spend time with loving people, our friends, our families, connect with our internal minds, and unplug from politics so that we can recharge and recover and return better and ready to go, because it's going to be busy next week. And I hope to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful weekend, my friends. I'll see you right back here on Monday. Bye-bye.